Welcome all attendees to this FitNation VIP webinar. Glad everyone who's joining from wherever they're joining is happy to be able to participate with us today. We host these sessions by invite only. The audience today is specifically made up of gym chain leadership teams, fitness teams, and industry consultants. And the topic, of course, is all about VR and the signs that your chain might be ready to offer this experience for members. So for this, we're going fireside chat format. So we're going to focus on 5 key questions to help you understand if or when for VR in your chain. For that, we've brought in Shahin Lauritzen to help us better navigate these questions. Why him? Because he's the CEO of Holodia, a VR fitness company that's based in Denmark. So I'm going to let Shahin intro himself properly in a few minutes. But first, a quick rundown on how we expect these webinars to work and what we expect you as the listeners to come away with today. So that would be a better understanding of what VR could mean for your chain, the signs that you're ready to start offering this to your members, the implications for your product lineup, your business model, and retention, of course, and also some food for thought, because there are some people who have some reservations about what this technology could mean or how users might interact with it. One of the topics that we'll cover in a little bit. And so how to participate, you are able to use your phones during these sessions, which is nice. So we're going to use a tool called Slido. If you want to have your phone with a QR code scanner ready, instead of Shahin and I just discussing this while you all listen in, we want those who have taken time out of their day to participate and drive this conversation forward as well. So we'll do word clouds and polls and some short answer feedback in order to support the conversation. Plus, of course, some Q&A at the end. So I'm gonna stop talking for now. I'm gonna pass it over to Shahin. If you could give us, our listeners, an overview of who you are, your background, and of course, why they should listen to you today.
It's my pleasure, Alex. Thank you very much for, first of all, for inviting me. I think it's a great opportunity to talk a little bit about VR, the technology, and how it fits into fitness in general. So thanks a lot for that, and hello to everyone out there. I cannot see exactly how many are online, but I know it's quite a few from many places, as Alex say, around the world. So it's fantastic to connect and discuss this issue with all of you. My name is Shahin Lauritzen. You can already hear on the accent that it's kind of like the flatline English non-native speaker. I'm Danish. I'm sitting here in Copenhagen, or just north of Copenhagen right now, and I'm the CEO and a co-founder in a company that is called Holodia, and we are building the VR fitness platform, which we call HoloFit. We've been at it, if you look at from the first time we actually got the idea and started this, for quite a few years. And we are a bunch of people that have come together from fitness with experience and background as fitness executives, and from gaming and from VR technology. Some of our people have worked with VR technology for more than a decade, I think almost 15 years now, back at the time when a VR headset was like $30,000, maybe $40,000. A lot has happened since that time, and we are now seeing VR technology being adopted, accelerating across the world, driven by some of the big players in the market. And that enables us to do some quite amazing things in the fitness space. We have a team which is located mostly in Europe, but we have customers that are based in the US, in Europe, and in places like Japan, and also now looking to enter the Chinese market. So I think with these words, Alex, just to be as brief as possible, that's enough as in terms of an introduction.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And I think we'll continue to cover more about yourself. We'll weave in interpersonal experiences and your own business into this, and also just your background, because you're in the day-to-day of this and you're interacting with a lot of people who are living and breathing this as well. So I think your insights for where we'll start are going to be quite interesting. I wanted to kick it off and ask some of our attendees a simple question is, what comes to mind when you think about VR in gym chains right now? Now, for the listeners, you can scan the QR code here. I'm going to do it myself. And you can actually enter multiple answers. So it doesn't have to be just one answer. And as you enter those, we're going to start to get feedback that'll pop up on the screen here as we go. Huge opportunity. I like that one a lot.
Very cool input here.
Yeah.
Good thoughts.
Let's give it 1 or 2 more minutes and see if anything else comes in. Shahin, as you see anything here, I mean, when you, as I mean, in your sector and in your place in this industry, like what's ringing true here? What do you think is there anything missing?
No, so this is very, very interesting input. You know, I like the kind of the tags like, you know, big opportunity and gamification. And then we also see some, you know, some words like absent, which perhaps is an indication of some hesitation vis-a-vis VR technology, which is totally understandable. I think when we are operating at the cutting edge of introducing new technology, there'll always be a certain hesitation in the market. You know, what can we use it for? How can it help create value? What are perhaps the obstacles to user adoption, and so on and so forth. But I'd say that, you know, in terms of big opportunity, in terms of gamification, I think those are kind of like at the core. The fitness industry has been struggling for many years with a couple of very, very key questions. Not so much how to attract people, because that's relatively easy to actually get people, you know, into your business. But the big question has been retention. You know, how do we retain customers? How do we engage them? How do we keep engaging them? And how do we actually create a fitness experience which is addictive in the positive sense of the word? So I think, you know, like when people are thinking about big opportunities and gaming together, I think there is a lot of truth in that, because one of the things that VR technology allows us to do is to strongly gamify fitness. And that kind of changes the game, if I can put it that way, because from something that is perceived and experienced by many people as hard, as painful, as something that we try to come up with all kinds of excuses for why we don't have to do it right now, because someone is calling or there's some important meeting we have to take. We can actually change the fitness experience into a super positive experience that people want to come back to again and again.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the key topics we'll discuss in a few slides as well is this truly like that intersection of entertainment and fitness? And is this something, you know, a distraction in the best sense of the word for people who they can be fit, but not really realize, you know, not feel like they're just having to go to the gym and do 10 steps of bicep curls because someone told them they should? Is this kind of a way to rethink fitness a little bit?
So yeah, we often get that question, you know, like, okay, so what is it the whole of it does? Does it distract people? And that's one way of looking at it, because what does happen, and that is true, is that people tend to forget time and space. You know, they enter into a fully 3D environment. They have their workout programs. They have their different holo worlds. And then, you know, they have gamification which helps them to overcome the difficult point in a workout session. But what is actually more true than distraction is the opposite, namely focus. It's a focus on what you are doing right here and now and having fun with it. And what happens is that all of it actually extends the duration that people use in the VR headset. The average of all our users right now, workout time with HoloFit is actually 34 minutes per workout session. When we started out back in time, it was like 15, 17 minutes. That was the average of a workout session. Today it's 35. And we even have people that are using HoloFit on a fitness machine doing half marathons because they are, if you will, motivated, they are inspired to continue while they are in the workout session and to come back to it. Okay. I see some words also here, if I may, Alex. Yeah. I'm trying to widen up the screen for me, but I also see some concerns around sweat, which I think is, you know, a very legitimate concern to have. We had expected that would be an issue. We had expected that in the feedback from customers, you know, relatively often we would hear people say, you know, I'm not, you know, the sweat is an issue for me and that's a problem. But we are surprised by the fact that that seems to be a very minor problem. Headsets today have evolved to a standard where not only are they standalone, they're wireless, so we are not operating with irritating cables and so on and so forth anymore, but they are actually also produced in a way that makes them very easy to clean and keep clean while you're using them. You know, counter the sweat while you're using it and keep clean afterwards. And that's also super important in these COVID times, that we understand that we use headsets that are easy to disinfect after the use.
Yeah, I think I just saw one that came in on the top. Do you see your consumers or your customers, or is there a preference to buying or renting the headsets? Like, well, what does that typically look like?
I mean, so that would be different from when you look at the consumer market and the commercial market, right? And HoloFit is a platform that is serving both markets. And if you look at the consumer market, definitely people have their own. Okay. You know, they users that are buying this, subscribing to HoloFit and buying a headset, it's their own. We don't see any renting options out there. That's not the prevailing model that users have. In the clubs, the prevailing model is actually also to acquire the headsets directly. We will no doubt come to a point, and that is an option for a fitness chain to actually have headsets on a leasing model. But when we look at the customers we have, most of these customers, from my recollection, they have actually acquired the headsets.
Interesting. Okay. We talk a little bit more about the business model in a few slides. It'd be interesting to revisit this one a little bit more in depth.
We will.
Cool. So we're going to move on here to one of our first core questions here. So, in your opinion, which sectors in the fitness industry will benefit from VR the most over the next 5 years?
It's a very good question. It's a difficult question, actually, because when you look at the demography, you know, when we look at VR in general, I think at the very onset, you will see that the demography is centered around younger users and middle-aged users. These are people that are typically, they are not fitness professionals, right? The demography is really comprised of the category I'd call fitness amateurs, those that need help with motivation. Someone who is a pro cyclist who has no issue with motivation that's not a target customer for us, right? Rather, HoloFit helps those that have motivational issues and really need that extra bit of help to do their fitness. So demography, I'd say spread out, but the younger demography down to 25, but then particularly we see retention is very high in the segment from 35 to 55. That's actually retention-wise the strongest demography right now. When it comes to sectors in the fitness industry, some of the big fitness chains have models where, you know, they run premium fitness clubs or signature fitness clubs, and at the same time they try to run a segment which is more low cost. I think it's going to take a little bit longer before we see adoption in the low cost sector to sort of start with what I see will work, maybe over a longer period of time. That's because VR at this stage lends itself quite well to clubs where there is some staff. We have to acknowledge that most people still, they are not very familiar with VR technology. It's getting better and better, but most people will come into the club and they will maybe look at it and they'll say, oh, this is interesting, I'd love to try this. And the first time they do it, they might need a little bit of help. So if you come into a low cost club where you have no reception, you have no trainers on the floor, I'd probably say that that's going to be a steeper adoption curve. On the other hand, in premium clubs that are looking for new technology, that want to be cutting edge, that want to be innovative, that are looking for new boutique concepts that they can offer, and that are looking for two particular things. Number one, how do we monetize our cardio floor? I believe it or not, the way we see it, most gyms still do not do that. They have large scale, wonderful cardio floors, but they're not really monetized per se. The second issue I would say is for those clubs that are looking for hybrid models. And I guess we've come to a point in the market right now where if you don't have a hybrid model, or you have a hybrid model on the way, you are losing out on big opportunity. And that's where a product like HoloFit or VR in general can actually help you connect people and users in the club, in competitions against each other, PT-led classes, and then at the same time actually open up for your members in the club and members sitting at home to access the same platform, compete against each other, and have fun.
Interesting. Okay. So you would say then, we're thinking about the signs that, a chain may be ready for this. Sounds like actually for the time being, until it's more widely adopted, the budget gym chains, which are low staffed, might not have the most success with this. But on the other hand, if you are a chain who's really looking at like secondary spend, looking to be an innovator in your market, which most chains are, but the ones who do versus the ones who just say they want to is quite a big difference, I think, as we all know. So if you're looking at these and you see yourself being kind of familiar with there, that could be one of the tall tale signs that it could be time to start looking into VR for your members. I think what you mentioned with the motivational aspect for people who might not be as used to fitness, I had not actually thought about that one, because you think it's such a new immersive technology that it's going to be for someone who feels very, very confident with what they're doing and their movements and that, but it's actually a little bit quite the opposite. Those people know exactly what they want to do. This might just be something interesting for them to try out.
And most people are informed today, right? I mean, listen, I've spent a lifetime. You see that on the gray beard and no hair, right? I've spent a lifetime training, and I love it. And I've also spent a lifetime helping other people to get in better shape. And it all comes down all the time to the motivation. If we have help, most of us that are not self-motivated, we need that extra help. And VR fitness goes an extra length, right? It actually, once you have tested it the first time, I mean, let me give you an example. People that use HoloFit, imagine all of you sitting out there, you all know the Concept 2 rower, the golden standard, right, in rowing. But we also know that it doesn't have a screen. And for most people, the Concept 2 rower is a torture instrument. Like I don't see it that way, and you might not, because we are fitness professionals, but for most ordinary people, it's a torture instrument. But look and behold, the moment that they put a headset on their head and they actually go into it, can be HoloFit, it can be another VR application, that completely changes the game. And people are spending half hours on the Concept 2 rower. So there's a lot of motivation and retention to be had when you talk about VR fitness.
Okay, interesting. All right. We're going to move on to question 2 here. And so question 2 here would be, how do I better guide member fitness routines using VR in my gyms? I think we've already touched on this a little bit. And also, talking about this aspect of distracting users from that thing that might not be as fun for them. But what would be your feedback from your perspective on better guiding member fitness routines using VR?
Yeah, we touched upon it, and I'd say, kind of like 2 main areas. I think it will be necessary to organize group classes. Again, I'm using HoloFit as an example, but could be other similar products as well. In HoloFit, you can set up like 5 rowers next to each other, or bikes, or ellipticals. You can create a boutique space. Then you can allow people to use it on your own, or you can even do PT-led classes. So I think that organizing group classes where you only have the people in the gym, or you actually connect by a time table and allow people to join into a class, I think that's one way of guiding fitness members. What we see typically is that people need perhaps help the first time, but then what we are trying to do from our side, of course, is to make the user interface as intuitive as possible. It really needs to be absolutely intuitive, so you don't have to ask questions as how you actually operate it. The other way that we see people really love and enjoy this is as individual users. HoloFit is a piece of software where you can choose different workout programs, and then after that you choose the Holo world that you wish to do your workout in. Just to mention, a few, do a 15-minute HIIT training. People love that. And the way we have conducted and created our workout models is actually coming from a fitness scientific point of view. So when you do a HIIT training, 15, 20 minutes high intensity training in HoloFit, we are sure that will lead to results. And we can demonstrate that to users with the data that we are tracking. So that would be 2 different ways of using this.
And would you say, I've noticed you've mentioned a few times the amount of time that they spend inside this VR world with the headset on. That seems to be a pretty key performance indicator for you guys. Like, looking at other well-known platforms around the world, like Facebook, one of their main targets is, like monthly active users, for example. Is there a key KPI driving the VR industry? Is it time with the headset on?
No, I'd say, in terms of engagement, we are looking even more at DAU over MAU. So that's daily active use over monthly active use. And the reason why we started tracking that KPI is that is the indicator of how active our users are on a daily basis. And our latest figures are 32%, right? We have then looked at sort of the weekly average use over the monthly, because we also wanted to understand what is it how do people use HoloFit, in our particular case, is, do they remember towards the end of the month when their subscription is renewed, do they remember that, they need to get something out of HoloFit, and then they do like their 5 sessions or not? And the opposite is actually the case. The average repeatability ratio, as we call it right now, across the board for HoloFit users is 4.3 times a week. So that gives us a very good idea and an understanding that VR fitness is very quickly being built into the weekly routine for users. And this is important because if we become relevant, and if we are relevant as a product for the user that the user loves to come back to on a weekly basis and is incorporated as part of my training. One day I do VR fitness, the next day maybe I do functional training, then there is an offer of Pilates. And in that way, I build my week maybe around my fitness center, maybe around, part the fitness center and at home. Then I think that's how, in combination of the right product offering, I think clubs can really increase their retention ratios over time. But you need to have the right product offering. Right? Yeah. You need to recognize what I think is super important. I think we all recognize that today, that people are shopping around, right? They want to do one type of training one day, but then they want to do something completely opposite the next day.
Yep.
So that kind of user behavior, the demand from the market, it has changed over the last 10 years. It has changed over the last 5, 4, 3, 2 years. And I think that clubs today, and I'm sure every one of you are, I think you need to be very aware what's in the market. How can I compose or comprise, that product offering, and then make sure that that actually engages my users, very often during the week.
Excellent. Yeah, and one thing we'll continue to speak on this webinar too is it's all about a great digital member experience, and the clubs are always going to be the key, the king here, right, in terms of the business model and getting people through the front doors, but that great digital member experience to help support that, both in club, using a headset in club with the PTs and group classes and things like that, or if they just opt to do it at home, but they're still engaging with that brand in a nice way. This is part of that hybrid model that is going to be so key for years to come. So before we move on to this one, I suppose the signs then that we've pointed out, sounds like for those who are looking to add another layer or to be more dynamic with their Group X or PT offer, this could be a really great way to attract new members with some new exciting technology. And then also, if you are trying to be one of those chains that has a high touch approach, or making sure that your members get the most out of each and every workout, and not just a gym where they kind of go in, do their own thing and don't have much interaction. This again is where VR can start to be a very valuable source for you.
Yeah, and I'd say if I may add one thing, Alex, I'd say to everyone listening here, don't be afraid of the technology. It can seem like an obstacle. It can seem like something that might concern you, but how does it work? Will people understand it, and so on and so forth? Listen, my mother uses it, right? We have Holofit users that are in their 70s and 80s. They're not the overwhelming demography, but it is quite easy to use. Every one of us are using smartphones, right? They're right here. So, the first time we tried to set up a smartphone, it was a little bit complicated. But I'd say, most companies that are building tech, which is deep tech or might sound complicated, they also have super friendly customer service relations teams, and they are there to help as well. So don't let the technology be kind of like the point of a point of fear for trying something out.
I think that tees up this next one quite well, and a precursor to this question is everyone on this webinar was contacted by me personally, seeing if this would be an interesting topic for them to participate in and discuss and get your feedback on. And I was actually quite surprised at the amount of negative responses I got. And I think that's just because it is a very early technology. There are some people who maybe aren't sure what it means. So let's talk about this. Is it a friend or foe? Is this something that is a threat to the gyms and the gym chain? Yeah. Or can we integrate it into the product offering of the in-club experience?
So I think that this all starts with the considerations at the individual chain and individual gym. What's your strategy? Mm-hmm. How does a product offering like VR, how does that fit in? Does it fit in at this point in time? I think when we look at it over time, I think that, I like to suggest to you that if you're thinking about the future without somehow integrating VR fitness, I think it will definitely take members away from your club sooner or later. The question is, how do you do it and when do you do it? Mm-hmm. And I'd say, developing an actual strategy for it, a technology strategy that does not necessarily have to only include VR fitness, and then actually planning a rollout where you start, low risk, integrating with members, monitoring the success of it. That's the way to integrate it. There are some that would sort of raise questions again about, I'd say two things. Is it comfortable to wear? We talked a little bit about that. What about sweat? That was there. It was asked, and it's a totally legitimate question. I think we've come to the last generation of headsets. It sounds crazy when I say last generation of headsets, but listen, last generation of headsets before in the next evolution of headsets, probably next year, we'll see specific VR fitness headsets made.
Okay.
That's probably going to be the next evolution. Sweat is absolutely solvable, and it doesn't impact with the technology itself anymore with the types of headsets we have out there. There are some technology issues. Headsets require battery, so you need to think about that. Headsets they don't require Wi-Fi, but if you have them connected with Wi-Fi, you can also connect outside your club, and you automatically, of course, update the software. So there are some infrastructure issues to think about before you start taking VR fitness into use.
Okay.
But I was wondering, it could be interesting to hear, in addition to the issues that were raised, what are people thinking? What are their thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's actually tees up our next, is a bit of like a poll, if you will. So we can scan our QR code here, and this will start putting people's answers onto the screen again. So they can see like what threats, if any, do you see from VR? What opportunities do you see from VR? And we can see how these go.
I love that one, to attract introverts into the gyms. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
See if any start coming in here. See, there's a few people typing. What kind of typical things do you usually hear, Shahin? Like, say if you're speaking with a gym owner, or if you're speaking to someone in the consumer space, what kind of things do you hear related to this question?
Well, I think I think that point on the introverts, that's an interesting perspective. There's always a question, what does VR do to people? Does it mean that they actually, do they sort of turn away from what else is available in the club? And is VR sort of blocking people from the social experience of the club? That is a typical concern. The fact actually is that people connect with each other in VR, not only inside the club. They can compete with each other. When you put on a VR headset and you are sitting on a rower, when you start the multiplayer, you have the individuals next to you as avatars inside the environment, right? So you can be together and connect with people inside the gym, but you can actually also connect with people while you're at the gym that are sitting across the world from you. So I think that's one of the concerns about VR, what it actually does to the individual. Let me see here what we have. Threat, dizzy members, discourage others. Yeah, that's a good point there. Let's talk about motion sickness.
Yeah.
Motion sickness is a thing with VR technology. It's exactly the same as when you have the kids in the back of your car. You don't want them to look at their smartphones or read a book because they get driver sickness, right?
Yeah.
Same when you're on a boat, it's seasickness. You get nausea, and typically that can happen with a VR product if, first of all, the VR product is not done the right way, or if you are using VR for gaming purely. Imagine you're sitting at the couch at home and you're putting on a VR headset, everything is moving around. The thing with Holodia is that we have actually created technology, and it's patent pending, that eliminates VR motion sickness. It has to do with the way that we do the programs. It has to do with the way that we that we create and develop the content. But there's also a truth in the fact that when you use a headset together with a fitness machine, you are removing the body as the medium. It's a fitness machine that becomes the medium. So you actually reduce the risk of any kind of dizziness, as it's mentioned here, motion sickness, purely by using it on a fitness machine. I'm trying to see if I should comment on more things here. Help me out, Alex.
So one opportunity here, develop a more robust consumer weekly plan and habit. So clubs may need to consider how to integrate home workouts as opposed to seeing them as a threat.
And that's a very good point. I mean, it's the hybrid model, right? And that's not easy to do, but I think, you know, the first step is to sort of be clear about which product can actually provide value as a hybrid. And then, yeah, you need to create sessions that you can offer for either club members to access while they are at home. Could be HoloFit, could be other VR applications as well. And you need to have a digital strategy then to get out to the open and actually attract people to these sessions that are not necessarily your members at that point in time, right? But imagine that. Imagine that you can have club members sitting in your club and you can then attract someone who is in a completely different market to participate, you know, in a class that you're running in your club. I mean, that's crazy, but it's cool. And that is, among other things, what VR can do.
Yeah. And one thing I've seen pop up a lot of these is like, what do you think is possible and what is very sci-fi? And I hope that's not too vague of a question, but I think maybe some people have some you know, misconceptions about what they can and can't do.
I think it's I understand the question, but I think the premise for the question, can you say that in English? I think the assumption behind that question is wrong. VR has nothing to do with sci-fi. It may feel like, you know, something sci-fi because it's a new technology, but listen, you know, again, let me use HoloFit as just as one example, right? The HoloWorlds that you choose, that's your choice. You choose a HoloWorld which is, you know, a strong gamified fantasy world, and you will go into a gamified fantasy environment. You can also choose the HoloFit or the HoloWorld that we call cyberpunk. That will take you into a sci-fi futuristic environment, but it doesn't disconnect you with what is going on in the world that you live in, because you can also choose Cambridge, or you can choose San Francisco, or you can choose the Gare Blanc. And these are HoloWorlds that we have created on the basis of real, actual sports event. You know, take an example, Gare Blanc. For those of you that are ultra runners, you will know that the Gare Blanc is, you know, one of the toughest ultra marathons in the world. And what we did was we recreated that in a HoloWorld that, well, it's called Gare Blanc, where you actually get to go into a VR environment and compete with others in an environment like that. So it's a mix between fantasy, real sport events. What it does do, if people think that that is sci-fi, is that it does give you a break, doesn't it? It does give you a break away from this immediate world that's all around us with all its distractions, its worries, its concern. And for the time of a workout, you choose how long, but for the time of workout, you can just be in there, in that world that is beautiful. It's motivating. It's a fun game, and that's how you do your fitness.
I think one that's tropical during these European winters would also be.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Okay, so looking into question 4 now, we've mentioned business model here a few times, so maybe we could really drill into it now. Is what do you see as the business model implications VR can bring to clubs?
Yeah. Well, as I said, I think there are two ways of looking at this, maybe 3 ways of looking at it. We see some premium clubs that are saying, you know, we are a premium club. our members are relatively high end. They pay a higher end subscription price, and for that they come to the club and they can access everything.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we have some product offerings that they can also do from home. And there, if you will, the monetization perhaps lies in the pricing level of the subscription model.
Yeah.
Then we see some clients that are saying, "Oh, cool, we can actually monetize this. So we're going to set up a boutique style area. We'll call it, whatever we like, VR fitness or just kind of like, enter sci-fi, if that's the term that you want to use." And that gives people access to an area in the gym where they choose VR training.
Okay.
I think in that connection, what's interesting to understand is that it is an option to integrate VR fitness with the billing system in the fitness chain, and that actually gives the user an option also, if that's your model, to actually opt in to VR fitness on top of the product offering that you have already.
And you had mentioned about monetizing cardio equipment, and you're surprised more chains don't do that. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, would this be being able to rent or have that option to wear this headset while you're on a treadmill, another cardio piece?
Yeah, well, in most clubs, you access a lot of cardio fitness equipment, and obviously you do that against the subscription that you pay. But I actually think that customers are willing to go to some kind of advanced usage of a cardio floor. Like, why do you stop at just making the machine available?
Yeah.
If you look at the average fitness machine, a bicycle, an elliptical, a rower, many of them have a lot of different offerings, right? But they are not necessarily activating the member on the floor. So you see some companies that are helping clubs to specifically monetize the cardio floor, and I think it's something that I think it's an opportunity that many fitness clubs are missing out on.
Okay, interesting. And have you ever experimented? I've heard of some other suppliers, not necessarily in the VR space, but they have a product that people can use on the gym floor, and it's available in a locker, for example, and then they can just like tap their bank pass or maybe tap their membership card, and it'll automatically unlock that locker, and then they can get themselves immersed in a VR experience. I mean, would you say there's anything related to that happening in this space too?
I think that's emerging. I think what I see are models predominantly in the US where fitness machines are used by personal trainers. Like you do a class on the cardio machine together with a trainer, which then typically becomes a combo of like either running or bicycling with some weights included and a little bit of sort of like stepping on the floor and this and that. I think that's a great way of utilizing the equipment and doing something a little bit different than just being, in the Pilates hall. But I don't see it yet so much in utilizing technology, also because if you're thinking about like a standalone piece of equipment, to sort of have to take it out from a closet and put it up and then use it and access with your card and this and that, it typically becomes a little bit too complicated.
Gotcha.
With VR fitness, it's relatively simple because either the headset is something that you pick up at the counter, it's out at the machine, or you bring your own device and and you just get started with it.
Okay, interesting. So I would say then making sure that I don't lose out on these signs here that we're going to be discussing with our listeners. One of these signs would definitely be, what percentage does secondary spend play as part of your business model and as part of your decision making? And if it is a large percent, or you're committed to increasing that and finding more ways to drive new revenue into the clubs, this could absolutely be one in order to help you achieve those goals. So moving then to our last question, our fifth and final question, what steps does or what steps should a gym chain start to take today to get their journey towards VR going to offer this to members?
Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about it. Formulate your strategy. That'd be my piece of advice. The clients we talk to, commercial clients, they typically come to us, and the starting point is, this sounds interesting. What, we'd like to explore, which I guess is what we're doing right now. We'd like to explore VR fitness. And what we do is always, we try to spend quite a lot of time understanding the client's concerns, understanding what you have, what is the idea here, what is your business model, what are you thinking in terms of a strategy to implement this as part of the product offering. Decide on that model, and then explore and learn about VR fitness options. Select the VR fitness option that you think suits your club best, and start it up with a pilot. We see very few clients that come in and say, listen, we're going to roll this out over 100 clubs within the next 2 months. Luckily, yeah. Because that's going to go wrong. Start it up with pilots in signature clubs, or whatever fits your model. And I'd say, from our point of view, let's join forces. Partner up with the VR fitness companies that you think can serve you the best, so that you are sure that you have the VR fitness company and the VR and fitness experts with you, consulting on everything from setup to first trial, to how you set up classes and so on and so forth. Gotcha. Think of it as a consultative process.
Yeah, and we're going to turn it over to audience questions here in a second, but one that's related, a little bit related to this, that I wanted to get your take on is, when do you think is the turning point that that VR is going to start to be normalized in the gym setting? When do you think that turning point would happen?
Well, I think, coming through the COVID crisis, if that's where we are right now, I think that's certainly a turning point in itself, right? Because we are all coming back, and I mean, in Denmark right now, all restrictions have been dropped. Obviously, a very small market, but it's wonderful to be back and sort of meeting people again, and that's the acceleration, I think, of fitness clubs to go back into action. From an adoption point of view, I'd expect within the next 24 months, you'll see a lot of the larger chains make decisions. I think you will see a lot of the like smaller specialized chains. I think you'll see family gym chains. I can mention YMCA, that's one of our clients in the US, make decisions around VR fitness. We think that if you don't have that incorporated somehow in your product offering, then I think that you'll lose out on the generation that's on its way. Yeah. Because they were born with this one, right? For those that are in the same age group as me, look at your kids, right? They have never lived without technology, so their adoption level and their adoption speed is much faster. I think we'll see, some major decisions being made. Actually, they are being made already now, but I think we'll see a larger stream, going from early adoption into early mass market within the next 12 to 24 months, something like that.
Right. That happens pretty quick, I think, as we all know. So I think the moral of that story is that if it's on the radar, or if one of these signs, are you actively looking into some of these steps that Shahin has been mentioning, or do you have the resources to start looking into these steps and actively having conversations, maybe making investments at your signature clubs? 12 to 24 months, it goes by before we know it, for better or for worse. So if these up and coming generations who are going to be using this, you might have more to lose than to gain by at least trying this in a few select sites, right? Sure. We're going to turn it over to audience questions. If there are any, we're not going to use Slido for this one. You can just put it into the Q&A into the chat. There is one that was a little similar to what you've just covered, which was, is there a secret to rolling this out successfully in your chain?
Yeah.
Like we've been talking about this one. We were going to wait to answer that one because we knew the slide was coming up. We can give our listeners a few more, but if not, we'll give it a minute or two. From your perspective, Shahin, what would you say is the most surprising thing that people don't know about VR, or maybe something yet to come that's going to shake things up? Minding, of course, confidentiality and everything like that.
Listen, I think, well, first of all, what's the most significant thing is people's reaction.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about VR. If you haven't tried it, it's an amazing experience. And I think, that is really what's driving adoption right now. It's fun, and the other thing is that it is meaningful. And this is perhaps one thing to look out for, because there are many products out there in the market. If you look at ourselves at Holodia, we are fitness people first. We are a fitness company first. Second, we are a gaming company. And only third, would I call ourselves a VR tech company. And our philosophy is very clear. VR fitness has to be meaningful. It must help users improve performance and increase their health. The fact that it's fun is just a driving factor. That's one of the reasons why people come back to it. But if it does not serve the purpose, then it just becomes a kind of a game. And then I think in that scenario, it would be, the interest would falter at some point. Mm-hmm. So that's really, I think, a very important point. The people's reaction to it, people often, they are surprised by the interactivity level, how much they can interact through gaming, and how much they are being engaged while they are training.
Oh, nice.
Working out.
Right on. All right, well, we didn't have any other questions coming in. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but just keeping in mind, we did have a lot of good feedback from those word clouds, which was really awesome. We'll send out these screenshots to our listeners today, so that if they do want to take that back for some food for thought on internal meetings, they can do so. Shahin, I want to give you from the bottom of my heart, a big thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. For those listening in who want to learn a little bit more about you, where can they go to connect with you best?
Well, I think, I don't know whether you have given away my email address. Otherwise, connect with Holodia. We are always happy to have a conversation and answer questions. HoloFit can already now be found as published on the Oculus Quest store. So you're always welcome to reach out. You can also reach out directly to me. That's at my last name, Lauritzen, at holodia.com. So that's LAURITZEN at holodia.com.
Perfect. All right. And I think, when we send out a recap, of course, your LinkedIn, things like that will be included.
Absolutely. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. The only person with that name, strange combination of Persian and Danish in the world. So, just find me on LinkedIn and reach out. That's fine.
Excellent. All right. Well, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Thank you also to all the listeners who joined us today. I hope this was very informative. I know it definitely was for me, and we look forward to having you on our next one.